Chapter 200 of Kengan Ashram might be one of the most important chapters in the entirety of the series so far. It foreshadows the end of Ohma to some extent, and also the possible death of Setsuna, which is something I talked about in my previous video, 5 crazy theories of the inside. One of my crazy theories was that Ohma and Setsuna are going to come out of this arc far worse off than how they came in. I theorized that Setsuna would more than likely die, and Ohma, though there is a chance he may die, it might not be death that puts Ohma down for the count. There's something that is probably going to happen to Ohma that'll make him unable to properly fight, and where he actually has to properly teach someone like Koga the Nico style. But we're getting way too far ahead of the chapter, which starts off where we left off in the previous chapter, just getting into the inside, and immediately there's a lot of sketchy stuff are just happening in the inside. It shows that there's definitely a lot of, outlaws that are inside the inside. Oh boy. So a lot of illegal stuff is going on, and it seems like this is the type of place where if you've got nowhere else to go on the planet, you usually go here. And it's definitely set up that way. A zone where the outcasts are welcomed, which is actually, I think his name is Ryu. Ryu talks about the founders of the inside and that it has a sort of exile type of vibe to it, founded by people who were actually defeated and exiled. So that might be a pretty strong theme in terms of the entirety of this arc, maybe. However, we move on from that and they're discussing their plan of action, moving through Ronza all the way to basically the center. And a person actually tries to attack Rei here, so we get the sense that the moment you get into the inside, you're usually targeted very quickly, right? So this type of thing is something that will probably happen at a regular basis, so long as they are recognized as fresh people that actually just got inside. That also goes to show that, yeah, that's the type of place the inside actually is. But Rei takes care of this guy fairly easily. He just knocks him out, and Ohma just gives him pointers to be more subtle in terms of his hits, which Rei takes a note of because he is trying to, perfect his martial arts. He ain't trying to be an assassin in the same way. And so they eventually find a place to lay low, to basically rest up. And Ryo and Metsudo are actually talking about Koga here, and how it seems as though Koga is far more than what he seems. At first, a lot of people are like, yeah, this is some cocky kid, but there seems to be something else about him that they personally see. Now, this is actually something that a lot of people have kind of been talking about in the Kengan community, and that Koga has MC vibes. And maybe this might be some form of way of explaining that away, because if you want to talk about MC vibes, a lot of characters, or at least one character that I'm aware of currently in the story, has a similar vibe, and that is basically the Connector. The Connector has a lot of loyal people, and we even see people like Gilbert Wu just, fanboy over the Connector. So it might just be that he has that X factor that draws people to him. It could be something like that. But they definitely do talk about how they're getting fond of Koga. That Koga is basically becoming someone that these type of people, Metsudo, so on and so forth, are ultimately drawn to and want to actually support and actually care for. So that is important to note, because Koga and Ohma already left and they basically got something to eat. And this is where what I was talking about at the beginning of this video comes to fruition here. Ohma is talking to Koga and he's trying to get him to relax, but he also tells him the reality of the situation, that Ohma actually intends on teaching Koga the Nico style. the whole thing. This would include, in theory, Demon's Bane. So essentially, Koga is Ohma's successor. Basically, Ohma has chosen him. And we've definitely got that sense, like, ever since I think the time skip where we see Ohma and Koga training. I think it was right after like his fight or before the Berserker Brawl where they were training. I think it was after the whole Zaiji thing. We saw them fighting. And Ohma was teaching Koga, and a lot of people were like, is Koga going to learn the Nico style? Yes, completely. He is going to be a Nico style practitioner from here on. At least that's Ohma's plan. Now, things can go very wrong, which could contribute to Ohma actually dying, but I don't think that's gonna happen because Setsuna straight up says he won't let it happen. And I think this is why Setsuna is far more likely to die here. Because Setsuna hasn't really paid his debt back to Ohma. Because Ohma did break him out of that mind control thing that other Nico or the last Nico or whatever other Nico you want to call him did to Setsuna. He brainwashed him basically. So you have that entire debt that needs to be paid, and now in terms of the narrative setup, it seems as though something bad is just waiting to happen to Ohma. So, like, Koga may be in danger, but Ohma's probably in just the same amount of danger as Ryuki in theory, right? The possibility is still there, and Ohma knows this. You know, that's why he's going out of his way to teach someone like Koga. And it's going to be very interesting seeing how all of this really goes down ultimately. How will the Connector be the one to take down Koga? Maybe the last Nico. They meet the last Nico. Ohma tries to fight him. He completely and utterly fails, and you have Setsuna having to give his life up to save Ohma. We could have a situation like that, but the whole point of this is that there is definitely huge, red flags at bare minimum for Ohma. Bare minimum. I've said this I think I said it in the previous chapter, that it seems that as though the series is kind of preparing us for something bad to happen to Ohma. And it seems that we are definitely approaching that moment. But the chapter ends off right there with Setsuna coming in, and it seems as though Setsuna is going to be joining us, which is going to be fun. It's going to be fun to see Setsuna with the boys, going in, and I'm kind of hyped for it. I thought we were going to see Setsuna a bit later. He was definitely in my guaranteed list of people that should be there. So, yeah, I really hope, things, go forward. And I'm very happy with what we've got with the Inside so far. Like, huge foreshadowings, very big things that are going to happen here. At least right now, that's what it seems like. So, yeah. Anyways, like, sub, all that fun stuff. Take it easy.